Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or tea, sit back and relax, and join me for some astrology, human design, gene keys, Pleiadian Earth energy astrology, and anything else that manages to come up today that we might want to talk about. I hope all of you had a great weekend, had a great day yesterday, and are enjoying this quieter week, at least from the last week. Although it's funny because I always think of these energies that come, like we have these pulses of energies that move through the calendar. It feels like they're pulses, right? Where it's active, 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 and then it dies back. And then we get a breather. And then the next week is active, active, active. And sometimes I feel like in the breather part that we are so gobsmacked by what's happened or has been happening that we're really just dealing with the fallout of everything in our lives that's been in flux or that has happened over the intervening days and even weeks at this point in time. And it seems like so much happens in any one given day. If you look at the news cycle, of course, there's always something going on, always has been. That part's not different. What's different is the quality, the intensity of the information that's flowing out there and the relative truth or untruth of it all. And the difficulty that we might have in pulling apart those pieces of information to understand more fully whether or not it's truth. So it's just been a really interesting time that we've been moving through. And this week we get some help. Yay, finally, some help in terms of what is going on. How do we discern a truth, and how can we move our minds to the next level? So that's basically what we're dealing with in this week. Good morning, people who are checking in. Rebecca, good morning, Colleen. Good morning, Camille. Good morning, Michelle. It's great to see you ladies out there. And I'm so sorry that I missed you all yesterday. It was a crazy day for me. And, my computer fan went out last week, so I had to take it into the shop. Well, yesterday it was supposed to be done. So I took my husband to work yesterday morning so that I could have the car, so that when they called me, I could get back to my life and my work with my computer. So after I get home, I guess I could have set up the show to broadcast at 8:30 instead of 8, but I didn't. So I got to work trying to keep my mind off, when are they going to call? When are they going to call? When are they going to tell me that my computer's fixed? And about 2:00 in the afternoon, I couldn't stand it anymore. So I'd get up and I'm walking out my front door. I'm going to go check the mail or take a walk. And the phone rings and it's them. But guess what? My computer fan isn't working. Well, the one that they ordered to replace my computer fan didn't work. So he's like, I hate making these phone calls, but I have to tell you, it's not going to be done till Wednesday now. I'm like, oh, this is shades of last January, right? Where I was dealing with all of this. Well, what is interesting timeline wise between January, February, when I was experiencing that, and now, is that Mercury and the Sun were meeting up in their inferior conjunction at that point in time, and Mercury and the Sun are meeting up in the superior conjunction now. An inferior conjunction is a time when the Sun and the planet Mercury come together while Mercury's in retrograde. And it happens in between the Sun and the Earth. When you have a superior conjunction like we're experiencing now, it is a time that is about the halfway point between Mercury's direct motion and the next retrograde. And it happens between the Sun. It happens with Mercury on the other side of the Sun. So the Sun is between the Earth and Mercury. So in other words, Mercury is kind of invisible to us at this point in time. We couldn't see it at night, even if we wanted to, because it's on the other side of the Sun. And I just found that interesting, right? An interesting little aha. Sun and Mercury coming together and creating technology challenges and glitches. So if you all are experiencing it, or if even some of you are experiencing technology as a glitch, whether it's your phone or whether it's your computer or, any of your appliances or your vehicles, It's not Mercury retrograde. It is the coming together of the Sun and Mercury. And in a way, they open up a pathway to change, right? The two of these, they have rulership over, well, let's see, Mercury has rulership over Gemini. The Sun and Mercury both moved into Gemini while you slept last night, around a little bit after midnight for the Sun and just at 3 a.m. or so for Mercury. And so now we have the two of these planets sitting in a tight conjunction, literally on top of one another at 0 degrees of Gemini. So we are opening up to potential. And what's the potential of a superior conjunction? Well, it prompts us to get revelations or to sort of have downloads of information that come in. It strikes up mental clarity. It stirs it up, I should say. And in moments of aha or in epiphany, we can see new ways to solve problems. And this exact same thing happened to me yesterday. So 2:00-ish, I get the call. My computer isn't going to be ready till Wednesday. I have people requesting charts. I have people that need human design charts, and my human design program is on my computer, not on my husband's laptop. And there are the writing that I'm doing for the Energy Almanac for 2020. That's due at the end of this month. I mean, I'm like crunch time, right? And I start to freak out. And I'm telling the guy on the phone, look, can you just copy those programs for me so I can put them on my husband's computer? He said, well, unless you have the, what do they call those codes? The unlock codes to those. And I went, oh my gosh. I have those codes in a program that I can get to from my phone or from a website. And so I took the time yesterday and I uploaded, downloaded, whatever, the 2 programs I needed onto my husband's laptop. Problem solved, except that I created my own problem because I double copied the files to his laptop, to his desktop. And when I got done, his desktop had 60 icons on it. And I went, oh my God, I can't even find the one I need. So I had to delete everything, uninstall everything, and redo it. Typical Mercury snafu. And it bears telling that we should take our time. Right. And even in my excitement of realizing, hey, I can do this stuff, I can get this stuff onto his laptop in the short term and get my work done. I still, in my excitement, forgot that, you have to load it into a file or a folder, or else all of the files end up everywhere. And so lesson learned. Slow down. This is the lesson, right? Slow down. Stay in the flow of the energy. Don't be leaping and scattering your energy everywhere. That is going to be the temptation for us right now, to scatter, right? To throw those seeds out there into the wind and then watch them blow all over the place. And you're going to go crazy doing that. So try to stay focused, try to stay calm, stay deliberate in everything that you undertake right now. Helping us is the moon in Capricorn. And I'm going to take a moment. I see a bunch of comments flicking up and I don't know what people are saying. So I want to take a quick look at that. Let's see. I'm going to go back to Rebecca's good morning. Good morning, Natasha. She said yesterday was very interesting. She works with kids in a school. And I can just about imagine, because, kids, they're unfiltered. They don't always filter the energies that are flowing, and they make a good tell about what's happening on the planet. And good morning to you, Natasha, by the way. Good morning, Lynn. And good morning, Diana Balgard. Good morning, Sarah. She said her phone broke on Friday. Oh my gosh, Sarah, I'm so with you. It's funny how dependent we've become on these technologies, right? Literally, everything I do is wrapped into the laptop or into my computer. I can't even just sit and write, articles or anything like that, because all of the information I would need in order to do that is stored online. So it's kind of a sweet little pickle we've gotten ourselves into technologically, in that we have the potential, to really get messed up or to get behind the 8 ball when our technology goes out. So I guess we just deal with that, right? Good morning, Vanita. Good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Patricia. Good morning, Kristen. I hope everybody's doing well. I know I had a conversation with Debbie yesterday. Like many of you, experiencing a lot of ups and downs and all arounds, and people dying, people getting hurt, people getting in accidents. It has been kind of crazy on the planet that way. But when you go through a major shift, and we are going through a major paradigm shift, and when that happens, a lot of chaos is a part of that, and people leave the planet. People things that are lying in the subconscious break through to the conscious mind and create chaos for us. And literally, that's kind of the thing, right? And I really wish I had something better to say to everybody, like, oh, this is going to calm down and go away. But in all reality, it isn't. It's really rather ramping up in some very interesting ways. Interesting as in, I don't know how to qualify it. Is it a bad thing? No, not necessarily. Is it a good thing? No, not necessarily. It just is what is. And the one thing that I know from doing March, or it was May and April, that I've been working on for 2020 is, even out that far, it still has these chaotic edges to it. Like the burr underneath the saddle of a horse, or that splinter that you get in your finger that just doesn't go away, or that you just can't get to. We have these things that are just irritants right now, and, not necessarily getting any better, although the long-term trajectory is that everything is happening in right and perfect order, that there isn't anything wrong with what is happening. It is just, for our limited human understanding, it feels crazy, and it feels ugly, and it feels like, God, are we ever going to get through this, right? We just want to, maybe fast forward ahead a couple of years and see, if we can get past this. But we chose to be on the planet right now. Every one of you chose to be on this planet right now. And you know what, Suzanne? She just asked a wonderful question. So this is the time Mother Gaia is leveling up. If any of you have ever played video games, before you level up, there's always some kind of monster or some kind of major battle you have to go through in order to level up, right? You have to earn the right to level up. You have to have the chops to get through whatever lies at the end of that level and move in order to move up. And really, that's exactly what we're doing right now. We are in the battle of the level before the leveling up, if that makes any sense to you. I don't know if you guys play video games at all, but almost any game that you play, right, there's always this chaotic hard area that you have to get through in order to move to the next level, right? So that is exactly what we're doing, only it's on a large scale. And it's largely out of our control. It's not like a video game where we have the controller in hand and we can control where, all the shots are being fired, or where all the exchanges of energy are happening. It's out of our control personally. The only thing that you can really control in all of this is yourself. And that's why we go through this exercise pretty much on a daily basis, looking at the energies that are flowing through, so that you can choose how you want to react or how you want to show up in the world, knowing that there's a bigger plan in play, and we're not always privy to the details, right? We're not always privy to what the plan is, and the how isn't necessarily ours to see either. What is ours is the what. What am I going to do? Or, what is my reaction to all of this? Or how do I respond to everything that's showing up? That is your real responsibility, and literally the only path open to you personally. Now, you also have dollars, right? You can spend your dollars on the people and the products that support our moving ahead in a healthy way as a planet. You can spend your dollars or your time in support of leaders that are, showing us a new, a better future, a more inclusive future. Or you can spend your dollars in a way that supports your local communities, etc. So you have resources, and you get to choose how you use your resources. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to say here. You can choose how you put your resources out there, your time, your energy, your money. And that truly is remarkable when you think about it, because given that, the more of us that do these things that create a different planet, the more that builds up energy and the more it starts moving us forward in a way that we want to move forward. So there we have that. Let's see. Moon in Capricorn. Let's go back to what I started to talk about. Helping us today with that scattered energy feeling is the moon in Capricorn. The moon in Capricorn is very much about aligning our emotions with our work, getting all of our ducks in a row. Capricorn is an earth sign. It's pragmatic. It is down to earth. And in a way, it is very goal-oriented or task-oriented. And as a task-oriented energy, then it helps us to move forward. So even in the midst of Mercury in Gemini, Sun in Gemini coming into a conjunction, which can cause us to, oh, look at the next shiny new object, right? Oh, look at that idea. Oh, look at that. I'm inspired by this. The moon in Capricorn can help us keep all of ourselves grounded. On top of that, today, the moon in Capricorn is opposing Mars in Cancer. Now, we talked about Mars in Cancer last week. It moved in last Wednesday, and the same day Venus moved into Taurus. So last week we had planets moving around. This week they're a little more streamlined, but we're still seeing movement. And with Mars coming into an opposition with the moon, it can create some conflict or some disturbances in the force. And that would be because Mars in Cancer is a little bit protective and security oriented. It wants to hold on and stay safe, while the energy of the moon in Capricorn is, let's move forward. Let's take that next step. So we see in an opposition, the battle of the two forces on the opposite sides of one another, right? Let's stay protected. Let's stay safe. And over here saying, but that's not going to support us in moving forward. We have to move forward. So, but the moon rules Cancer, where Mars is. So the tendency to be more protective or security oriented is much more powerful today than the energy of taking that next forward step. So again, that creates tension. And when we have tension, we see conflict erupt, right? I saw it already in the news this morning, the battle between the constitutional in this country, US anyway, the Constitution. Right? Are we going to interpret it this way, or are we going to interpret it this way? One way is in alignment with what the founding fathers had in mind, and the other way is an attempt to create an authoritarian society. And it's a tension, right? It's tension. I don't know if I've ever talked to you guys about this. One day I will get my board out and see if there's some way I can film this board. Tension is a product of resistance. And as the Borg would say in Star Trek, resistance is futile, but it is motion creating. And if you take an ice cube, let's say, an ice cube is a very hard, solid water, right? And if you want to create water, liquid water, ice then has to go through a process of melting. And melting is created by resistance. The resistance between the molecules that are creating heat and the molecules of the solid water that yield to create water, liquid water. So anytime that we go from one state to another, we need tension. We need resistance. We don't need to add to the resistance by putting our own personal energy into that resistance. We already have, there's already resistance out there. We don't need to add to the resistance. So we could just stay in the flow as the change of state occurs. Now, the same thing happens with liquid water, right? You apply heat or resistance to the water, and it undergoes another change of state, one akin to ascension, as those water molecules become water vapor and evaporate into the air. Again, because of resistance, because of tension between the molecules of water being excited to undergo a change of state. It's a perfect physical model of what is happening to us here in between the physical and the spiritual on this planet. So never fear the resistance, right? Because we need the resistance to stimulate enough energy that we can actually make the change, go through the change of state. And we are. That is what we call ascension. That is what we call evolution. That is what we call the evolution of consciousness. And it is happening. We just don't need to throw our hat into the ring of resistance. We can just hold the space for this change to take place. I hope all that makes sense. It's kind of like Suzanne's leveling up. Good morning, Holly. It's good to see you out there. Haven't seen you in a while. And Camille, that is where there is positive power in action. Absolutely. Absolutely. Michelle says, yesterday, my sister picked my daughter up from school and went to Costco and bought our local Humane Society a ton of cat and dog food, toys, and cleaning supplies because she just felt like it. She was inspired to take action along something that she was passionate about, or something that she loved, she was in support of. That's absolutely what I'm talking about when I say use your dollars for things that matter, right? For things that you are in alignment with. Do your due diligence. Look at the products that you're buying, that you're spending your money on. And does that company, that corporation support your values? That's always interesting, right? Because a lot of corporations out there, of course, it's hard sometimes to tease through who's supporting what. But if you do your research, you can find what companies are supportive, or what they are in support of, or how they are helping or hurting the planet, or our, moving forward. Are they, politically aligned with something that is divisive, or are they aligning themselves with something that's a higher potential? That's our jobs, right? And, then you put your dollars, or you spend your time and your energy where it helps instead of where it hurts. So Holly says, yes, I just started a new job that allows me to listen again. Yay. Happy to be able to start my day with you again. Well, I'm happy to see you out there, Holly. And I'm really glad that you got a new job. That's exciting. And I'm glad it suits your timetable to be able to listen to us here. Okay. So I also wanted to talk a little bit more about Mars, because tomorrow, the next day, and maybe sort of the rest of the week, Mars is squaring Chiron. Chiron is a planet that's we talk about as the wounded healer. It is showing us the path of healing. Right now, Chiron is in the early degrees. I think it's at 4 degrees of Aries, a sign that we are learning to become self-sufficient, acceptant of ourselves, independent, or interdependency. I think overall, the transit of Chiron through Aries is all about our recognizing how we are all interdependent, rather than codependent at one end or one shadow, or overly independent on the other end. We are interdependent. So on the bigger scale, we're all learning about our interdependence, that what I do affects you, what you do affects someone else, and all of us together in this have to become more aware of what our actions are doing in support of or not support of the entire planet. And you may think you don't make a difference, but you do, right? You do. So it takes us back to this idea of becoming very self-aware. An awareness of self is not selfish. That's another indication of the learning and healing that we're going through with Chiron, is that at one end we also have selfish energy, and at the other end we have self-centered energy. And selfish means that I am taking away from someone else or from something else in order to strengthen myself. And when I am self-centered, I am energized in myself so that I have the extra to give from my largesse, let's say, to other people or to other organizations, etc. I can be generous when I come from a place of self-centeredness. When I come from selfishness, I'm in fear, right? I'm in fear that there isn't enough. And so I'm taking and I'm not giving back. Self-centered says I'm in energy exchange. I am taking enough to support myself so that I can give back. So Mars and Chiron are bringing that up for us as well, in support really of some of the other energies that we were just talking about. And then on top of that, Mars is in a trine or an ease and flow of the energy with the black moon Lilith in Pisces. Now, somehow in my, I don't know, somehow I missed. I didn't miss it because I do remember mentioning it, but I don't think we really dove into it very deeply about what the black moon Lilith in, or the shadow in Pisces, is all about. And if I am repeating myself, I apologize, because I remember sort of talking about this, but not really very deeply. And now that Mars is going to be in a flow with black moon Lilith, our shadow, it bears talking about. So Pisces energy, of course, is very loving, compassionate, creative in its highest end. On the low end, it's dreamy, it's escapist, it is coming up in a fight between idealism and realism. And it is sometimes a sign where we lose touch with reality. And the reality here is really helped or mitigated by our embodying spirit, recognizing that we aren't just this physical body, right? There's something within us that animates us that we can't quite quantify. It's not visible, but it's there nonetheless, right? And that's your spirit or your soul, the part of you that's connected. You know, how the ajna, not the ajna, how the head center in a human design chart, traverses both the spirit or etheric field as well as the physical field. That part of you, right, that is in tune with spirit. So the shadow here is not recognizing a higher power. Doesn't matter what you call it. It could be God or goddess or source or cosmic mind. I don't care what you call it. It is the recognition that you are so much more than what you are in the body, that there is something that is informing you, that there is something that you have to have faith that it is there, that you have an intuitive part of you that's in touch with spirit, or that spirit is embodied within you. And so the shadow here is about surrender. This shadow here is the fear of letting go and letting God. And I'm using God not in a religious way, but in an just that represents the energy of a higher power, creator. I hope all that makes sense to everybody. So one of the shadows that we have at the moment that we're working with, and not all of you have the black moon Lilith in Pisces by birth, right? That it's just transiting through here right now. But for the next 9 months, we're going to need faith. We're going to need to surrender to a higher power. That is the lesson that we're learning here. The shadow is when we forget our connection to something higher. And the shadow then reminds us that we are all in connection to some form of consciousness. I just choose to call it God. You can call it whatever you want. Hope that makes sense for everybody. You can certainly ask me questions here. Kathy Miller, good morning. Good morning, everybody. She's having a great week so far. I'm so blessed with all my family and friends. My niece and I are going on a weekend trip to the Roseburg area, exploring and visiting old cemeteries. So exciting, or so excited. Roseburg is in Oregon. It's a beautiful part of the state of Oregon. Been there many times. My mother-in-law used to live in Coos Bay, and somehow we ended up several times driving all the way down south to Roseburg and then cutting over to the coast till we realized there was a shorter way to get there. But anyway, so Roseburg is a great area. So have fun, Miss Kathy. Enjoy your time. Okay, so if you have questions about the Black Moon Lilith, Mars, Uranus, Chiron, any of that we've talked about this morning, please feel free to write your question there in the chat. For the moment, I'm going to switch over to human design, and then I'm going to switch to the Pleiadian Earth energy calendar. Let's see, how much time do I have this morning? It's 8:30. Hey, I've got time. If you have Black Moon Lilith in Pisces, is it more intense? Yes, definitely, right? It's like these are focusing in for you. So what's really focusing in or crystallizing for you, Colleen, would be your connection to God or spirit or source, cosmic mind, and be sitting in the seat of co-creator in your life with that energy, the energy of co-creation. It's in your 8th house, transformation energy. The 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. In the natural wheel of an astrology chart, it's ruled by Scorpio. So here we have that transformational energy, but it can also be very hard to pin down. It can also be an energy where you have to raise yourself up and get a bigger perspective in order to see where you're out of sync with that, or where you're living in that shadow as opposed to making peace with that shadow. I hope that makes sense. That's an interesting placement for you. And I happen to know, of course, you're going through a lot of change, and this is just one more level of that change for you in expressing spirit in your, living as if spirit is walking with you and not something separate from you. Okay. Lynn, great conversation, was just discussing the words God, goddess, universal consciousness, and what we mean by it. Awesome. Old paradigms versus new, and new meanings, new knowings. Exactly. It is a slippery slope. I love words. I'm a Gemini, so words are my life, right? And I like to pick them apart. I like to see what their meanings are, and never has it failed that there's some deeper meaning to a word. So when we think of the word, any word, right? If we think of the word and its energy, and you start to look it up, you'll see that there's a more modern expression of the word. But then if you go back to its roots, there's where you get the real truth of what the word meaning is. Not just how we use it today, but what is the word's true meaning? Because almost every word in English is based on something older, right? Latin, maybe even Germanic. Some words are based in Arabic. And it's always interesting to me to see where the word's based and what was its original meaning, because it seems to me then we can get to a deeper idea of what the real frequency is, I guess, of the word. So Sarah says her Black Moon Lilith is in Capricorn. So Sarah, in your world, it is all about reputation, right? Your shadow is that you are maybe even inordinately worried about what other people think of you. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be, right? Because what you put out in the world has to be representative of who you are, in the truth of who you are. And it has to be quality versus quantity, or, just superficial. So there's a part of you that wants to go to depth. And there's a part of you, though, that is uber concerned about reputation, which means you may do or say things that make other people happy just to fit in, to be politically correct. And what does politically correct mean? I mean, it's different today than it was 10 years ago, right? And so that's what you need to be in touch with. Camille's Black Moon Lilith in Leo, so is mine. I'm very familiar with this one. It's about ego, and it's about change, the resistance to change. Now, I laugh at myself with this one, Camille, all the time, because I'm a Gemini and I know change is a part of who I am. I literally thrive in change, right? I'm very changeable, except when I'm not. And when I'm not, oh my God, it's like a bull digging in, right? And you're not moving me. And I have to laugh at myself when that happens, because it's usually around something like, for instance, when I'm going to take a big trip. And so I've been dealing with this energy over the last, since April, when I was first getting ready to go to the Caribbean. And I always go through this before a major trip. It's like, I don't want to go, right? I don't want to go, because if I go, then it's upsetting my routine, my day-to-day living. Right? I won't have my comfortable recliner. I won't have access to all my shows on TV that I might want to watch. I don't have my books around me. I'm not sleeping in my own comfy bed. And it's very disturbing to me. And I have to push through that, right? I just push through that, because I know it's not the kind of change that's long lasting. You can imagine that before I move anywhere, I also go through sort of a grief process. Even going on a vacation, I go through a grieving process about my life not being in its normal routine. And that, Leo, in Black Moon Lilith is about, or Black Moon Lilith in Leo, about breaking free of that feeling of change, right? Of not wanting to change. Black Moon in Gemini, Holly says, that is about being a people pleaser, about saying and doing things to be supportive, to be so that others will look upon you favorably. Unfortunately, it leads to codependence and sometimes, you living someone else's truth. So the Black Moon in Gemini has to learn to speak their truth and to speak it quite eloquently, and not necessarily forcefully, but you have to really connect to that and really know what your truth is, or else you just become somebody else's mouthpiece or somebody else's yes woman. And we don't want you to do that. Is your Lilith placement in your astrological chart the same as Black Moon Lilith? Yes. Now, sometimes there's an asteroid that some astrologers will use called Lilith. The Black Moon Lilith is literally a mathematical point. She isn't a true point. She is literally, I want to say she is the mathematical halfway point between the sun and the moon in your chart. She represents the shadow, the part you can't see clearly. Holly says that makes so much sense. Camille, I had this. I understand it. Traveled for work a lot. Didn't like to hurry. Big moves, though. Books, yes. Groovy. So great questions about the Black Moon Lilith. Did you know I didn't go through all of the Black Moon Lilith placements, Asa, but the Black Moon in Scorpio deals with death and deals with change in a way, not change, but transformation, right? The deeper, darker transformation and the concepts of winning and losing. And so competition. So there's competition, there's death and loss, and how the lessons are about how death and loss lead to a rebirth and new life. So, and that might mean literal death through people, but it could also be death, as in things that pass out of existence in your life that lead you to something else. But it can cause a sense of competitiveness, or its opposite, which is totally succumbing, not even trying, right? Just giving up. So it's an interesting shadow. And Lynn says, thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so I know there are other placements and other people with their Black Moon Liliths, Lilith in Libra, perfection. That's an interesting one. The Black Moon Lilith in Libra is always afraid that there isn't a perfect person, a perfect time, a perfect place, a perfect or an ideal anything. And it causes you to always be on the search for something else rather than being okay with what is. So it's an interesting one. Hello, Michelle Dolan. I don't know you, but welcome. First, Lilith in Pisces opposes my sun in Virgo. Ooh, so are you a healer? Are you someone who finds often problems in your own body? Sort of like, this is one that skates the edge of hypochondria versus super sensitivity about what's going on in your body via the environment. So Michelle, your lesson here would be about really understanding when you are being empathic or medically intuitive about what's going on perhaps with the health of your animals, your plants, or other people in your life versus when something is truly going wrong in your own body. It's a really, really interesting one. I would bet you are a great healer, and you just need to get out of your own way and make sure that you're not embodying what's going on with other people's bodies, right? So Camille says, oh yes, I see exactly what you've been describing. It's the universe lining things up, being grateful, showing up for yourself. Absolutely. I think that's it for there. So now I want to transition before I get called into something else again, something important that's going on with human design this week. And that is that we have in certain charts, if you're a manifesting generator, I want you to think about this, because if you're a manifesting generator, you live this, and it's this opportunity wheel, right? That goes around. It never seems like there's just one thing that comes to you. It's always this might be multi-dimensional or multi opportunities or multiple draws on your time. multiple things that you have to get done. You're multitasking, right? And you're really good at that. That's a manifesting generator's skill, is that they can handle multiple tasks. In fact, they do much better under the pressure of having multiple things to do. Unfortunately, right now this week, we are all pulled into the archetype of the manifesting generator. And that is because the sun sits up here at gate 20, while the earth is down here at gate 34. And right here, this right angle, this connection that we see right here, is the right angle of the archetype of the manifesting generator. So the gate 20 on the throat center is really about the energy of charm. It's called the channel of charisma. It's about being able to speak to things in a beautiful tone, in a way that is diplomatic, in a way that is supportive. That whole channel, like I said, is called the channel of charisma, but it's part of the stream of consciousness of self-expression. So this week, we are all becoming self-expressive as this channel is defined for all of us. In fact, there's so much more going on than that. There's also the 2010, which is the Buddha channel. That here's 20 and 10 is on the identity center. Here's 10. So we have 20 and 10. And this means that you now have a defined throat, you have a defined identity center, and you have a defined sacral. So you're tapping into some very powerful energy, some high energy, some highly active energy. And that is a good thing. It gives us all the stamina. It gives us, this feeling that we can do anything, that we have maybe lots of things. I was just counting down in my own mind this morning, all the stuff I have to do. And I was almost overwhelmed by it, but I know I can do it because I feel this energy coursing through me, and you all are feeling it as well. But if you are not used to running this kind of energy, for example, you're a manifester, or you are a projector, or you are a reflector, then what you may be expressing is energy that isn't your own. And you may be pushing yourself, right? Pushing yourself to do things or to get things done. So walking that fine line this week, you can tap into that energy. It's there, but recognize that it isn't your own natural or natal energy, and that you can push yourself too hard, too far. And if so, you may burn out, right? You might be burning that candle at both ends, and it feels good this week. I have all this energy in the world, but guess what? You're going to pay for it next week. So don't do that to yourselves, right? Remember your authority or your strategy. If you're a manifester, you are following your ideas and inspiration from the mind, making sure that any resistance to it is abated by letting people know what you're doing before you do it. If you're a projector, you are waiting for invitations into things, not just going out and getting yourself involved in 15 different activities. If you are a reflector, basically the same thing, right? You're waiting to see if it's a big thing. You're waiting 28 days before you connect to it, not just jumping in and saying, I'm going to take on that project because I feel so good right now that I can do it, because later that will go away. And then you find yourself in a stranglehold, right? Being held hostage energetically to things you said yes to in a momentary high. And then it's very difficult for you to continue. And to continue would cause burnout. To not continue creates that stress inside of having to say no or to back out of engagements, etc. So be careful this week with this energy. It's great energy to get things done, but just remember, you have a basic strategy and a basic authority when it comes to making big decisions. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, then let me know. Put something out there in the chat. Sarah, my boyfriend is a manifesting generator. I am a projector. So what a combination, right? So a manifesting generator has the sacral defined, and one of these motors, this is a motor, this is a motor, this is the ego center or will center, it's a motor. The emotional center is a motor, and the root center is also a motor. So one of these four centers leads up to the throat in a manifesting generator. And it doesn't have to be directly, like the sacral can move to the throat via the identity center and then a channel that leads it up to the throat center. The emotional center can make it directly, or it can come this direction to the sacral and then up to the throat. So there's many different ways that a manifesting generator can become a manifesting generator. But the main thrust is that it's the sacral that makes him that way, and it's always on. It's always on. And that means in a relationship with a generator, you're very tempted to be like a generator or a manifesting generator, but it isn't your natural energy. So he may burn you out. So you have to be able to get away from that energy. You need time alone. You need time to meditate, do yoga, to get away. Literally, you need to probably go to bed and go to sleep before he comes to bed. Otherwise, you may be restless at night because you're drawing in his sacral energy, that, which, by the way, he can't do anything about. It's just on. It's always on. So I hope that helps. So her Gemini moon isn't going to help her calm down. Yes, it is, right? Your Gemini energy can take you through the day, and you can let it turn off in the evenings or when you need to rest by doing meditation perhaps, or, focusing that energy where it's best used. Let's see. So what was the other thing I was talking about here? So the sun at gate 20 reminds us to move from the energy of superficiality, that's the lowest expression, up through the energy of self-assurance and all the way up to presence. Presence. Not the kind that we get at Christmas, but presence with an awareness, a consciousness. The earth is the one that is sitting at gate 34 on the sacral. And it is the energy in the shadow that's force, where we push ourselves and we force ourselves, or we force something to happen. And we've all been guilty of this, right? Where you just know that if you don't get this done, you're going to pay for it later. So you force yourself to stay the course, or you force yourself to get it. Instead, elevate to the gift level, which is strength, having the strength to recognize when it's time to pause, right? Or when it's time to stop, or to recharge your battery, and knowing when it's time to use your strength and move forward. The highest expression is a word I've yet to explore very deeply, and that is majesty. It feels weird to me to even say that word. So obviously one day we'll have to take up that word and take a look at what it means. Ideally, though, this is an energy for becoming inspired, being kind and generous and nice to one another, sharing of ideas and being curious and following, and sharing your insights, etc. That's what this energy is mostly about. Although some of you will take this energy and run and get yourself involved in things, maybe rightfully and maybe not so rightfully. So be very careful about what you get yourself tied into. Have to go, Lynn says. Great conversation. Have a beautiful day. Thank you, sweetheart. Same to you. And John, I just saw you out there. Hello. Same here as a projector. And thank you for the heads up. I wondered where all this energy was coming from. Yes, all of this energy. And then I don't know if you were here in the beginning today, Anne, but also Mercury and the Sun conjunct today, after the Sun and Mercury both moved into the sign of Gemini. So we have lots of energy. And it can be scattered energy. It can lose focus easily. This is youthful energy. It's playful energy. It's social energy. It's idea sharing energy. It's wonderful. Except if you have to focus on something for any long term, it can cause it. Literally, I'm more afraid it's not going to cause us to lose energy in the moment, that we're going to bleed energy outward to the different scattered projects and things that may pop up in our field that feel good to us or are exciting, or we feel like, yeah, I want to do that. And yeah, I'm going to do that. And, the juggling is where we can really scatter our energy. So heads up for that one as well. Now, let's take a look at the Pleiadian Earth energy for the day. For those of you who are new, or for those of you who haven't been with us in a while and are wondering what the heck I'm talking about, we interviewed on Ascension and Astrology, Cornelia and I did, Pia Orlean and Cullen Baird Smith, the author of the book Pleiadian Earth Energy Astrology, Charting the Spirals of Consciousness. along with this book, which is very Mayan astrology-esque, which it turns out happened because it was the Pleiadians that gave the Mayans the heads up about this astrology. And then there's also a calendar. We talk about the calendar often. I'm trying to talk about it more and more frequently with all of you. So we get sort of in the habit of looking at time in a different way, as a spiral, right? As a spiral of ever evolving consciousness, as opposed to a linear, I'm moving through May now, I'm moving through June now, I'm moving through July now kind of energy, right? It's juicier. This is more complete. So the energy for today is now, when you look at the calendar, of course, you've got the picture for the month, just like a regular calendar. But then you see that it's a Gregorian calendar because, we still need that one as a frame of reference because that's what we're used to. And then what you see then are these other numbers and some words underneath the numbers. So here we are today with the 21st. This is the Gregorian day. Here is the universal energy of the day, which is 6. And the earth energy of the day is breathing. So what does that mean? Well, the universal energy, so all of the universe vibrates with the energy of 6 right now, today. And that is the energy of flow, right? The energy of movement, of activity, of action, that, it's like water that always will, if a river, gets extra water in it that it can't feel, get all the way down to the ocean, it might create a new channel of expression, right? Because it's flow. There's a power in being in the flow, right? If you've ever been inner tubing down a river or been rafting down a river, it's much easier. You see flow in the action, right? You're just flowing. Sometimes you don't even have any power to get out of that flow. It's just there, right? So we have this powerful movement available to us today in the flow. Now, the shadow energy of the universal day is about resisting what is, resisting that flow, right? So if you're trying to flow with your day and get specific things done, you have this plan and you have this list and you're bumping up against it every time that you try to get something done, then what you are in is a resistance to the flow. The flow of energy isn't taking you onto that next task yet, perhaps. Maybe that flow of energy is about relaxing for a little while, taking a walk, or maybe you're taking a walk and you keep, thinking about all the things you have to do at home. And that might be because it's not the flow right now. Maybe you're meant to be sitting at your desk doing something right now. So knowing the flow, being in the flow, and that flow can be, as different as the 7 billion people or so on this planet. So what does it mean? Well, it's up to you, right? There could be travel today, movement today. It's an active day, take action kind of day, but be in the flow. The earth energy of breathing is about wind. It is about, in the Mayan astrology, it was Ik, which is literally wind. And it is about harmonizing ideas. It is about harmonizing various viewpoints. It is about the information sharing. It's very Gemini-ish, right? Sharing of information, being able to harmonize different points of view, different ideas, being open-minded. Okay, so breathing, it's about just allowing information to flow through you, again, kind of in a flow, right? The shadow here is about being fickle or unpredictable, right? That changeable, waffling energy. So it may be difficult if you're out of the flow, but you have a major decision to make. This may not be the best day to make that decision, right? You may have to just go with the flow because your mind isn't set yet. And to be able to stay in that flow means holding on to till tomorrow, perhaps, to make that decision. All right. I think that's all I have for you all today. Let's see. Oh, it's almost 9. Camille says, describing me for sure. Great energy, projects, ideas. I think a lot of people have that going with them right now, but just make sure that it's okay to have all of these ideas. You can't really shut them off right now, it seems, right? So get a pen and paper, get your phone, record ideas. It doesn't, just because you have ideas flowing or opportunities that seem like they would be great for you to get involved in, doesn't mean that you have to get involved with them or take action on them. You've got to follow your type and your strategy for that, and your authority. That helps you to be in the right place at the right time for the right opportunity, because you could be in the right place at the right time and have 15 different opportunities, and now you're confused, right? I don't know which one to accept. I don't know which one is right for me. And so you either take none of them, or you gather them all up like nuts in the fall, putting them away for the winter, and try to take action on all of them. And of course, then you wear yourself out. So right time, right place, right opportunities, in the right way to express them. When you follow your type and your strategy and your authority, you find yourself able to make those kinds of decisions appropriately for you, which would be different for perhaps than for me, or for your spouse, or for your friends, for your other family members, right? It's totally different. All right. That is it for me. Unless I see any other questions popping up, and I don't right now. Let's see. Announcements. Remember, last week I told you about an upcoming summit, and indeed that is coming up from June 11th through 14th, and the summit is called the Change Your Mind Summit. It is a group of 11 women presenting topics about how to work with the energy of change in over the course of that week. It is free for you to participate. I will be putting out marketing information on that very shortly. I am part of the summit on June 13th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I will be presenting a Change Your Mind by Releasing Your Dependence on Your Mind. That's my role in the summit. And we'll be talking about your human design, the disposition of your ajna, and how to use the ajna correctly. What is the mind's correct use versus the way it is that we believe and work with our minds at this moment in time. Okay. And again, you'll see more information of that coming up. It is totally free for you to participate in that, and be watching for that information to come out. This week, Wednesday, tomorrow, tomorrow, I will be on the Angel Heart Radio with Annette McCoy, and we are going to take up the astrology of the month of June, or excuse me, the month of June. Where am I? I'm in a time warp here. And what we can expect as we move toward the summer solstice. And I guess that's it for announcements for the week. Wow, just so much going on, right? We lose track of time easily. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow. Will I see you tomorrow morning? I will see you here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. East Coast time. Take care, everybody. Bye for now. And you're all welcome. Thank you.